Welcome back to the deep dive. It is February 1st, 2026. And I have to say, looking around at the cultural landscape right now, at the apps we use, the way we talk, the way we spend our money, things feel distinctly different.
It's a definite shift.
Yeah,
The air feels different.
right. I mean, if you cast your mind back just 12 months to early 2025, the whole vibe was so heavy. It was just survival mode.
Oh, absolutely.
We heard so much about quiet quitting, about running on autopilot, about doom scrolling. It felt like we were all, collectively pulling the blankets over our heads to avoid the noise.
It was a massive era of digital escapism.
Exactly.
It was a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
I mean, the data from that period showed that people were cognitively just overwhelmed. So they withdrew. They watched content that kind of numbed them. But what we're seeing now as we settle into the rhythm of 2026 is this massive pendulum swing. We're moving from that passive coping state into something much more active and honestly a little bit more aggressive.
But in a good way, I think. Like, we're waking up. And that is the core tension we're going to dig into today. It's this clash and also this really strange, almost ironic convergence between the messy, raw human emotion that's driving culture right now
Right.
and the incredibly sophisticated high-tech AI that is desperately trying to predict it.
It's the battle between the algorithm and the instinct. And frankly, the instinct is putting up a hell of a fight.
So to do that, we have a fascinating stack of sources to help us unpack this today. We went wide and deep on this one.
We did.
First up, we have the TikTok Next 2026 Trend Report. This is fresh off the press, using their internal data and these powerful tools like TikTok One Insight Spotlight to tell us what humans are actually doing on the platform.
And to balance that, that marketing perspective, we have a dense, and I mean dense, academic paper.
Okay.
It's titled Anchoring Trends: Mitigating Social Media Popularity Prediction Drift via Feature Clustering and Expansion. This is from Lee and his colleagues at National Cheng Kung University, presented at last year's ACM conference.
That title is a mouthful. I feel smarter just hearing you say it.
It's a workout, but the content it's revolutionary.
Yeah.
They're essentially using advanced mathematics, things like vision transformers and large language models, to explain why memes die.
Wow.
And, more importantly, how to predict the next big thing before it even happens.
And finally, to ground all this theory, we have a strategy guide from a group called ClickForest, specifically their TikTok Marketing Guide 2026, which gives us some really niche on-the-ground examples of how this plays out for brands and creators.
Right, so our mission today is to understand how we moved from that digital escapism of 2025 to what TikTok is calling reality, spelled T-E-A.
I do love a good pun.
Me too. And we're going to look at how these complex AI models are trying to, anchor themselves in a world where trends change faster than they can learn.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the headline from the TikTok report, the phrase that is just plastered all over the executive summary is this: irreplaceable instinct. That is the theme for 2026.
Irreplaceable instinct.
Okay.
It's a powerful choice of words, isn't it?
It really is.
The report defines it as what technology can't replace: connection, curiosity, and presence, even when it's a little messy.
Which is so ironic, isn't it? We are using these massive energy-guzzling AI tools to track a sentiment that is inherently anti-tech, or at least, anti-perfection.
It's the paradox of our time.
It's like using a satellite to track a guy who just wants to go camping and be left alone.
That's a perfect analogy. The report notes that in 2025, when everything felt too much, people just checked out. But in 2026, the data shows audiences are moving toward active creation, conviction, and care. They're done with the polish. They want the grit. They want to feel something real.
And that leads us to the first big trend signal they identified: reality.
Right. And it's more than just a clever name. The underlying concept is really serious. It's this idea that fantasy is fading.
So what does that mean in practice?
It means users are finding comfort in navigating chaos together rather than romanticizing life. If you remember the that girl aesthetic from a few years ago.
Oh, I remember. Waking up at 5 a.m., the green juice, the perfectly beige bedding, the perfect lighting.
That's the one. That is dead, completely buried.
If you post a video like that now, you get roasted in the comments. People don't want to see your perfect morning. They want to see you struggling to find your socks.
Exactly. And this shift has birthed a new phenomenon they are calling #the Great Lock-in.
Now, this one I find really interesting because lock-in sounds intense. It sounds like work. It's the opposite of quiet quitting.
It is intense, but the motivation is completely different. In the old hustle culture days, you worked hard to impress your boss or to, buy a fancy watch.
Yeah.
Hashtag the great lock-in is about internal accountability.
So it's for yourself, not for someone else.
Precisely. People aren't escaping anymore. They are locking in on their own goals. But it's more tribal. It's about finding your group and holding each other to a standard.
Right, like those study with me streams or fitness tribes. But the specific sub-trends here are what really caught my eye. They mentioned this hashtag hygiene. Now, looking at the numbers, this tag has something like 692,000 posts just recently. And let's be clear, this isn't just people brushing their teeth, is it?
No, absolutely not. If you dive into these videos, it's fascinating. The report describes it as a luxury maintenance ritual. It's about turning a shower into a full-blown event.
Okay, paint the picture for me, because when I shower, it's usually 5 minutes, get in, get out, get on with the day. What are these people doing?
It's theatrical, it's a production. You see specialized lighting, maybe waterproof LEDs that change color.
In the shower.
In the shower. You hear specific playlists, often high-fidelity ambient noise or lo-fi beats. There are multiple stages. The pre-shower dry brush, the specific layering of different scented oils, eucalyptus, sandalwood, you name it.
So it's almost like a spa day, but compressed into a Tuesday morning.
Exactly. It's about taking control of the one small space you have, your bathroom, and making it a sanctuary. In a world that feels chaotic and out of your control, that 20 minutes of locking in on your own physical maintenance feels incredibly grounding.
And it really aligns with that real-ITA concept,
Yeah.
because it's not performing for others in the traditional sense. You're not at a gala. You're in your bathroom. It's a personal lock-in.
Right. It's for an audience of one.
Another big one under this umbrella is hashtag job life, with about 235,000 posts. Now, this one surprised me because usually work content on social media falls into two buckets. Look how successful I am, or...
Oh, hey, my boss, let me cry in my car.
Exactly. The brag or the vent.
True. Those were the dominant narratives for years. But this new iteration is different. It's much more nuanced. It's people sharing perspectives on non-traditional career paths or the raw reality of returning to the office. It's less complaining and more field notes.
Field notes is a good way to put it.
It's people saying, here's how I navigate this weird economic landscape. Here's how I balance a side hustle with a corporate gig. It creates a sense of shared reality, of solidarity, rather than just envy or pity.
And speaking of solidarity, we have to talk about how people are actually talking to each other. This is my favorite thing happening on the app right now, the hashtag comment react stack.
This is a fascinating evolution of language, honestly. For anyone listening who might not be in the comments section every day, maybe explain what a stack looks like.
Okay, so traditionally, if you see a video, let's say someone drops a wedding cake. You go to the comments and you type, oh my God, or that sucks, or maybe the skull emoji.
Right, a text-based interaction.
But the comment react stack is totally different. Users are now replying with photo reactions. So instead of typing OMG, you post a photo of yourself looking shocked, or a reaction meme of a cat looking judgmental, or a blurry photo of your friend staring at the screen.
And then someone replies to your photo with their photo.
Yes. And it just piles up. It becomes this long visual chain of reaction. It's creating a whole culture in the comments that is totally separate from the video itself.
It's the real-time evolution of the meme. It's visual, it's immediate, and crucially, it's messy. It's not a polished, well-thought-out response. It's a raw visual instinct. It bypasses the need for language entirely.
It reminds me of how we communicate in real life. If you tell me something shocking, I don't say the word shocking. I make a face. This feature lets us make faces at each other digitally.
That's a great analogy. It reintroduces nonverbal communication into a digital space. And that ties directly into what the report calls the third culture.
Okay, what's that?
The idea that TikTok isn't just a platform anymore. It's a space where your identity is based on your interests, not your demographics, not where you're from, but what you're into.
And they mention this phenomenon of hashtag second account found as part of that.
Yes. And this is a huge shift in personal and corporate branding.
It used to be that you had your main account, which was polished, and maybe a Finsta, a fake Instagram for your close friends. But this is different, right?
Yeah. Completely different. This is where creators or even major brands start a second public account to show a completely different, unpolished side of themselves. The report highlights a brand called Emi Ramen.
I love this example. So Emi is a ramen brand. Their main channel is beautiful, gorgeous shots of noodles, recipes, very high production value.
Standard marketing. Pretty, but a bit sterile.
Right. But then they launched a second channel, And it's just them doing street interviews.
Which has almost nothing to do with selling noodles directly.
Nothing. They go out and ask random people questions like, what is happiness? Or what's your biggest regret? Or tell me a secret.
It has everything to do with being human. It signals a move away from the perfectly curated brand toward a messier, more authentic human presence. It tells the consumer, we aren't just a corporation, we are people who are curious about other people. And that builds a much deeper connection than a pretty picture of ramen ever could.
So we have humans getting messier, locking in on their goals, and using photos to basically scream at each other in the comments. That's the instinct side of the equation.
Right.
But there's another layer to this human behavior shift, and it's about how we search for things.
This is trend signal 2 in the report, curiosity detours.
Moving from autopilot to intention. And I think this is where the quick summary of this trend misses the point. It's not just that people are searching more, it's how they are searching.
The stat here is staggering. 1 in 4 TikTok users start searching within 30 seconds of opening the app.
That is so fast. That means you're not just scrolling and waiting for the algorithm to feed you. You're grabbing the steering wheel from the jump.
You are arriving with a plan.
Yeah.
But, and this is the detour part, you almost always leave with unexpected discoveries. It's the rabbit hole dynamic, but accelerated to an incredible speed.
I do this all the time. Let's role play this for a second. Let's say I open the app and I type in perfume. I'm looking for a new scent.
Okay, so you start with perfume. You see some reviews, maybe an ad for a new designer fragrance. But then the algorithm notices you lingered on a video where someone on Book Talk is talking about what perfume a certain character in a novel would wear.
Interesting. So now I'm clicking on the hashtag book talk tag I've already detoured.
Right, now you've left fragrance and you're in literature. From there, maybe you see a video about skincare routines for late-night reading sessions.
So now I'm searching hashtag skincare.
Exactly. And from there, maybe that leads to first date ideas because good skin is part of that.
Yeah.
And within 5 minutes, you've gone from buying perfume to planning a social outing.
You've detoured through 3 or 4 completely different interest graphs.
And for brands, this is absolutely critical. You can't just buy ads for perfume. You have to somehow show up in those adjacent spaces.
You have to anticipate the detour.
And this is where our source from ClickForest comes in. They highlight a really specific strategy, creator partnerships with Belgian fashion influencers.
Which sounds incredibly specific, doesn't it? Belgian fashion influencers. Like, why not just fashion influencers? It does, but that's the point. The detour isn't broad. It's hyper-localized. It's specific. If a user somehow drifted from sneakers to, say, the Antwerp 6 designers, a generic fashion influencer from LA doesn't appeal to them anymore.
They want the real thing.
They want the authenticity of the local scene. They're deep in the rabbit hole now.
And the economics of that are fascinating. ClickForest points out that these niche detour influencers often have smaller followings, maybe 50,000, not 5 million. But the engagement is astronomically higher because they own that specific curiosity node.
So brands are realizing that it's better to own the rabbit hole than to own the homepage.
Precisely. The TikTok report mentions another great case study with Duracell. Batteries.
Right.
Now, talk about a boring product. Yeah. How do batteries fit into a curiosity detour?
K-pop.
Excuse me.
No, seriously, the answer is K-pop.
You have to connect those dots for me. That seems like a massive leap.
Okay, so if you know anything about K-pop concerts, you know about the light sticks. Every group has a specific branded light stick that fans wave. They're intricate. They sync up with the music via Bluetooth.
Right, I've seen the videos. It looks like an ocean of light. It's spectacular.
Exactly. But those things chew through batteries. If your light stick dies in the middle of a concert, it is a social tragedy. You are literally a dark spot in that ocean of light.
So it's a high-stakes energy need. I'm starting to see it.
Incredibly high stakes for the fans. So Duracell found this unexpected connection. The report calls it from batteries to biases, a bias being your favorite member of the group.
That's clever.
They positioned themselves within that fandom rabbit hole. They didn't just sell power. They sold the ability to keep cheering for your idol. They showed up in searches for concert prep or light stick hacks.
That is brilliant. They identified a curiosity detour and parked their brand right there. It wasn't about batteries at all. It was about fandom.
So we have established that the human user in 2026 is complex, behaviorally inconsistent, driven by this irreplaceable instinct, and prone to going down random rabbit holes about Antwerp and K-pop.
Which brings us to the big problem. Here's where it gets really, really interesting. If humans are this chaotic and trends are shifting from quiet quitting to locking in practically overnight,
Yeah.
How on earth does an algorithm predict what video will go viral next week?
It feels like trying to predict the path of a tornado while the tornado is changing its mind about whether it's a tornado or a hurricane.
That is a very apt description, and that is the multi-billion-dollar question. And it is the entire subject of our second main source, that dense academic paper by Lee et al., Anchoring Trends.
This paper addresses a concept that they call temporal distribution shift.
Or, as they call it in shorthand, prediction drift.
Let's break that down because it sounds like sci-fi, but it feels like something we all experience every day.
It's a very practical problem. Imagine you're an AI model. You're trained on data from December 2025. You're shown millions of videos. You learn that videos with a certain song, maybe a Mariah Carey holiday remix, and a certain visual filter, let's say vintage 90s, are viral.
Okay, so the AI learns a simple rule. Mariah plus vintage filter equals high views.
Right. It locks that rule in. It thinks it's cracked the code. But then January 2026 hits. The calendar turns. The entire cultural vibe shifts.
Right.
Now, everyone is doing fast-paced RealITEA videos or those aesthetic shower rituals. The Mariah remix is gone. That vintage filter is now seen as cringe.
So the AI, which thinks it knows everything based on December's data, sees a new video with that Mariah song and predicts it'll be a massive hit. But it completely flops.
That is the drift. The model degrades because it learned what the paper calls ephemeral signals, the surface features like the specific song or the specific filter rather than the underlying pattern.
I love that phrase, ephemeral signals. It's like trying to predict the weather by looking at what people are wearing on the street. If you look out the window today and everyone is wearing shorts, your simple model predicts sun. But if tomorrow there's a blizzard, your model fails spectacularly because it was looking at the fashion, not the atmospheric pressure.
That is a perfect analogy. You can't predict the weather by looking at the coats. You have to look at the barometer. And the researchers connect this to a concept in computer vision called test time adaptation, or TTA.
Which is usually used for things like robotics and self-driving cars, right?
Exactly. Let's stay with the car analogy for a second. Imagine you train a self-driving car in sunny California. It learns that road equals gray asphalt with clear yellow lines.
Easy enough.
But then you ship that car to Norway in the middle of winter. Now the road is white. The lines are covered in snow. The lighting is completely different.
That's what they call a domain shift.
Exactly. If the car relies only on its California training data, it's going to crash. TTA is the technology that allows the car to adjust its parameters in real time. It says, okay, the rules of road have changed. I need to recalibrate what road looks like right now on the fly.
But in this paper, the domain isn't shifting from California to Norway. It's shifting from last week to this week.
Precisely. They're applying that same adaptation logic to time. They need a model that doesn't just chase the ephemeral waves, but finds an anchor, a barometer, to use your weather analogy.
And that brings us to their solution. It has a great acronym, AMCFG.
Anchored multimodal clustering and feature generation.
Rolls right off the tongue. I'm going to name my firstborn child AMCFG.
I'm sure they'll love that. But despite the dense name, the concept is actually quite intuitive. They realize that instead of chasing the trend, the specific song or dance, you need to chase the structure of the trend.
Like anchoring a boat in a storm. The waves are the songs and the filters, and they're moving all over the place. But the anchor, the underlying pattern, that stays put.
That's the idea.
So how do they build this anchor? What is the anchor actually made of?
It starts with getting the right ingredients. They use a multimodal extraction process, and this is key. They don't just look at the caption or the hashtags, they look at everything.
They break it down into 3 parts in the paper. First, the visual.
Right, they use something called a vision transformer, or VIT.
Yeah.
And they don't just look at a thumbnail or a single image. They analyze 256 separate frames in the video.
256? Why so many? Why not just one?
Context. Think about a video of someone jumping on a trampoline. If you take one single frame, it might look like they are floating or falling or just lying on the ground. You have no idea what the action is.
Okay, got it.
By taking 256 frames, the VIT can see the movement, it can see the pacing. Is it a fast cut, a slow pan? That dynamic element is often what defines a trend.
Okay, so that's the eyes of the model. Then there's the audio.
They use a tool called OpenL3 for this. And this is crucial because on a platform like TikTok, audio is half the experience.
Sometimes it's more than half. A trending sound can make or break a video.
Exactly. OpenL3 analyzes the acoustics. Is it music? Is it spoken word? Is it ASMR? Is it loud and chaotic or soft and soothing? A video of one of those shower rituals relies heavily on the sound of the water and the quiet music. If the AI ignores that, it completely misses the point of the trend.
And finally, the text.
For this, they use BERT for the basic keywords in the caption, but crucially, they also use Videolama 3. This is a cutting-edge multimodal model that can generate descriptions and understand the context between the video and the text. It's not just reading words, it's understanding what the words mean in relation to the images.
So they have all this rich data, the movement, the sound, the text, all connected. What do they do with it all?
They cluster it. They feed all that data into the model and tell it to group the content into tribes, essentially.
The paper says they use exactly 300 clusters. The variable K, $300.
I found this part fascinating because it sounds so arbitrary. Why 300? Why not 100 or 1,000? They actually tested that. It's called an ablation study in machine learning. It's where you systematically remove parts of your model to see what effect they have. In this case, they ran the model with different numbers of clusters to see what worked best.
And what happened when they used, say, only 100 clusters?
The groups were too broad. It's what you might call the sports problem. If you have a cluster just called sports, you might end up lumping yoga videos and rugby videos together.
Which are two very, very different vibes with very different audiences.
Exactly. If I'm a user who loves yoga, and the algorithm shows me a violent rugby tackle because they're both in the sports cluster, I'm going to swipe away instantly. The prediction fails.
Okay, so what if they went the other way and used 1,000 clusters?
Too specific. You get what's called overfitting. You'd end up with a cluster for blue yoga mats and a separate one for red yoga mats. The model becomes too fragmented and can't find the general underlying pattern of yoga.
So 300 was the Goldilocks number.
It was the Goldilocks number. It gave them the perfect balance of specificity separating yoga from rugby and generalization grouping all yoga content together, regardless of the mat color.
And they have this visualization in the paper figure 3 where you can actually see these clusters. The text, visual, and audio features form these clear, distinct neighborhoods. It looks like a galaxy of colorful dots.
But here's the secret sauce. Just grouping the videos isn't enough. You need to understand why they are grouped. This is where the dual anchors come in. This is the core innovation.
Okay, walk me through these anchors. This is what stops the drift.
Right. So anchor type A is the statistical anchor. This is the pure math part.
The numbers.
The numbers. They look at the intrinsic statistics of each of the 300 clusters. What's the mean popularity of videos in this group? What's the variance? What are the engagement counts? It's pure behavioral patterning. It doesn't matter what the video is. Maybe it's a cat, maybe it's a car. What matters is how people interact with this type of video.
So that gives you the numerical stability. It's like the ballast in the boat. But the second anchor, this is the one that honestly blew my mind when I was reading this paper. Anchor type B, the semantic anchor.
This is the big AI twist. They use large language models, specifically GPT-4o, to reason about the cluster, to understand its meaning. But they didn't just ask the AI for keywords.
No, they did not. And I want to make sure I understand this correctly because it sounds completely insane. They asked the AI to perform an MBTI personality analysis on the video clusters.
I know, when I read that in the methodology section, I had to pause and reread it 3 times.
Wait, stop. You're telling me a mathematical model is looking at a bunch of MP4 files and saying, this group of videos gives off strong INFP energy.
Essentially, yes. That's what it's doing.
That sounds like a horoscope, not data science. How can a video have a Myers-Briggs type? That makes no sense.
Okay, so it's not about the video itself having a personality. It's about the audience the video is designed to attract. The researchers had this incredible insight. They realized that trends change, the song changes, the meme format changes, but the human psychology that drives interest in those trends remains remarkably stable over time.
Okay, explain that with an example.
Think about the cozy reading vibe. In 2024, that might have been videos of people reading by a rainy window with a specific indie folk song playing.
Right. I can picture that exactly.
In 2026, maybe that same vibe is expressed through videos of people listening to audiobooks while knitting a sweater. The content is different. The pixels on the screen are completely different. But the personality type drawn to that content, likely someone who scores as introverted, intuitive, and feeling, is the same.
So the MBTI tag is the anchor that doesn't change, even when the videos do.
Exactly. They provided the prompt template in the paper. They feed the captions and descriptions from a cluster to GPT-4o and ask it to evaluate the text on the 4 dimensions: extroversion versus introversion, sensing versus intuition, and so on. By tagging a cluster as, say, ISFJ, they create a label that doesn't rot like a specific song title would. It's a semantic anchor.
That is actually genius. It's kind of terrifyingly genius.
Yeah.
You're anchoring the prediction not to the content, but to the human psychology behind the content.
Precisely. They also use prompts to identify other semantic features, like target demographics, things like men in their 20s seeking relaxation, and general category classification. But the MBTI angle is the most novel and, I think, the most powerful. It treats the trend as a living, breathing entity with a personality profile.
So we have the TikTok report saying humans are driven by irreplaceable instinct. And we have this academic paper saying, hold my beer, we can model that instinct by using AI to psychoanalyze the content.
And that is where the convergence happens. That's the center of our deep dive today.
Let's connect these dots explicitly. Because when you look at the examples in the paper, they line up almost perfectly with the trends in the marketing report. It's uncanny.
They do. There's a specific example in the paper where the LLM analyzes a video. The description generated by their AI is traditional Chinese spa setting with ear cleaning.
Which sounds very, very niche.
Very niche. The AI then infers that this targets Asian audiences and people with interests in wellness routines and personal grooming.
Hold on. That aligns perfectly with the hashtag hygiene trend from the TikTok report. The luxury maintenance ritual.
Perfectly. The paper calls it a semantic anchor for wellness and grooming. The TikTok report calls it reality and locking in. But they are describing the exact same human behavior from two different angles, one from marketing, one from math. The AI successfully identified the trend signal without even knowing the marketing buzzwords.
It proved that to predict popularity in 2026, you can't just look at the pixels or listen to the song. You have to understand the theme. You have to understand the vibe.
And there is another massive connection in the data regarding the user. In the paper's feature importance analysis, that's figure 4, they ranked all the different factors to see what actually predicts popularity the most.
And what was number one? Was it the video quality, the audio, the semantic anchors?
None of the above. The two most dominant factors, by a huge margin, were user likes per video and user like count.
So it's not about what you posted today. It's about who you are, your history on the platform, your reputation.
Yes. And now connect that directly to the TikTok report. They found that millennial and Gen Z users are 1.5x more likely to try a new brand because of its community.
It's the same finding. The math says user history predicts success. The marketing says community predicts success. They're two sides of the same coin.
Precisely. The math is backing up the marketing. Your user profile cluster and the community you have built is the strongest predictor of future success. The algorithm isn't just watching the video, it's watching the reputation of the creator. It knows if you are a trusted source for that introverted sensing content we talked about earlier.
This is heavy. It means that even in this new world of instinct and chaos, there are deep patterns that machines can read, perhaps even better than we can. We think we're being spontaneous, but the machine says, ah, yes, another curiosity detour from the ENFP cluster right on schedule.
Which brings us to the practical application. If you are a brand or a creator listening to this, what do you do with this information in 2026? How do you use this without feeling, I don't know, a bit manipulative?
Well, the tools are already there. The report mentions the TikTok One Content Suite and the Symphony Creative Studio.
These are basically the commercial, user-friendly versions of the feature extraction and clustering we saw in the academic paper. They let marketers categorize and analyze content at scale.
But the advice from the report isn't just use the tools, it's about focusing on emotional ROI.
This is a crucial concept for 2026. Impulse buying is losing to intention. Because users are searching with intention, remember that 1 in 4 stat brands need to justify the why to buy, not just the what to buy.
You can't just slap a buy now button on a cool video anymore. You have to build a real connection. You need to fit into their curiosity detour.
Look at the Oreo case study from the report. This is one of my favorites because it's so playful and smart.
Oh, the Oreo X Reese's collab. A legendary cookie.
A legendary cookie for sure. Now, they could have just run a standard ad campaign. Here's a cookie with peanut butter in it. It tastes good. Please buy it.
Which would have been fine. People like cookies. It would have sold.
But it wouldn't have gone viral. It wouldn't have built community. Instead, they created what the report calls a playful clubhouse. They leaned into the fan theories. There had been rumors and fan requests for this exact flavor for years online.
Right, there was this running joke on the platform about merging with your best friend, and people kept tagging Oreo and Reese's.
Exactly. They didn't ignore that. They embraced it. They let the community shape the script for their ads. They leveraged that hashtag comment reactsac behavior we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
They encouraged users to react with memes and photos about their own best friend merges.
So they anchored themselves in the community interaction, not just the product.
And the result, a 12% increase in shares.
Which, in the world of social media metrics, is huge. Likes are cheap, views can be bought, shares. A share is the highest form of currency because it implies a personal endorsement. A share says, I identify with this enough to put it on my own profile.
It worked because they understood the semantic anchor of their audience without calling it that. They knew their audience wanted to be playful and a little bit chaotic with their best friends, so they provided the cookie as the vehicle for that emotion. They didn't try to make the cookie serious or aesthetic.
So, looking forward, how good are these predictions actually getting? If Oreo can do it intuitively, and the researchers at NCKU can do it mathematically, are we close to solving virality?
Well, the paper mentions that in the S&P 2025 challenge, that's the social media popularity prediction challenge, their AMCFG model achieved a MAP of 17.47%.
Okay, let's break that down. MAPE stands for mean absolute percentage error.
Right. So in simple terms, it means that on average, their prediction of how popular a video would be was only off by about 17%.
That is incredibly close. If you told me I could predict the stock market with only a 17% error, I'd be a billionaire by next Tuesday.
It is getting scary close. And remember, they achieved this by using what they call generative feature expansion. That's using the AI to generate new features, like the personality types, about the video. They are essentially simulating human understanding to close that prediction gap.
So is the code cracking the human code?
It seems like it's getting there.
Yeah.
By simulating human understanding, by giving the AI the ability to psychoanalyze the video, we are closing the gap between the algorithm and the instinct.
That leads me to a final, slightly provocative thought to wrap this whole thing up.
Let's hear it.
The TikTok report, our first source, is titled Irreplaceable Instinct. It's a celebration of humanity. It claims that connection, curiosity, and presence are things technology can't replace. It claims that 2026 is the year of the human.
That is the whole premise, yes.
But our second source, this academic paper, just showed us that by using LLMs to analyze personality and semantics, technology is effectively quantifying that very instinct. It's taking our messy, chaotic, irreplaceable humanity, our shower rituals, our K-pop obsessions, our comment stacks, and neatly sorting it into one of 300 mathematical clusters.
It's a valid and slightly chilling point. It really challenges the definition of irreplaceable.
Exactly. If an AI can accurately cluster your irreplaceable instinct into one of 300 behavioral buckets using MBTI logic, is it really irreplaceable, or is it just another data point we haven't labeled yet?
Maybe our instinct is just a very complex pattern that we haven't noticed ourselves, but the machine, with its giant view of the data, has. Maybe we are far more predictable in our chaos than we want to admit.
And a humbling thought.
It is. But perhaps the irreplaceable part isn't the pattern itself, but the feeling of living it. The machine can predict the shower ritual, it can cluster the data points of the steam and the eucalyptus and the lo-fi music, but it can't enjoy the feeling of the hot water.
I like that. The machine gets the data, we get the dopamine.
Exactly. The machine knows what you will like, but only you can feel the liking. For now, anyway.
On that note, we encourage you to go lock in on your own curiosity detours today. Go search for something completely random, type Belgian architecture or K-pop lightstick history into your search bar. Go on, confuse the algorithm a little bit.
And as you scroll, keep an eye on those semantic anchors. See if you can spot which of the 300 clusters you might be falling into.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you in the next rabbit hole.